The time is 6 p.m. We will now call the special public meeting of the Board of Trustees of Humboldt Independent School District to order. Our first item, closed session. Closed session of the board will now be held on matters contained in the notice for this meeting. Should the board determine that any final action, final decision, or final vote be required with regard to any matter considered in such closed session, then such final action, final decision, or final vote will be made upon reconvening of this public meeting in open session. The time is 6:01 p.m. The time is now 6:48 p.m. We'll reconvene to open session. Next item, questions and comments by patrons or employees of the district regarding agenda items or any other matters. The board encourages comment from citizens of the district or from district employees wishing to speak either as an individual or as a representative of a group, and may do so following procedure outlined on the agenda. The board asks that comments pertain to public education issues and be no longer, this evening, we have 7 speakers, 3 minutes. Remember, the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda for tonight's meeting. If an issue mentioned is listed on tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion until the appropriate time during the meeting. Okay, I'm going to call up the first 4 speakers. If you would please come up, and if 3 you will sit in the, we have some seats right there in the first row. Let's see. Larissa Powell, Joseph Hides, I hope I'm saying that right, Holly Matherly, and Deanie Allen.
Sir, my friend Holly does want to speak tonight, but she was under the impression this part of the meeting would start at 7.
No. Okay.
Larissa, you first.
Good evening. Silence is no longer an option. Tonight, we gather to advocate for accountability, transparency, and for the well-being of our students, educators, and staff. I collected this information from several different sources. What we know. Texas law prohibits hiring outside counsel in executive sessions. The contract with Welsh & Gallegos and Craig Wood does not allow for hiring subcontracted lawyers. The district hired Terry Perkins as a Title IX coordinator, yet Laura O'Leary is the investigator. Are we suppose that Laura O'Leary is billing the district at a lawyer rate, not an investigator rate? The board could have easily trained investigators from another district or an at-large pool, but why? Why did you not do that? Was Gina Ortiz, the decision maker, also illegally procured? Is she Title IX certified? Where are these documents? I noticed that on the Title IX report, her name appears all over the 2023 report. Did the board request an RFQ on this law firm in 2023? There was not an RFQ done by any of the law firms they voted for to hire in the special meeting held February 15th of 24. Why did the board wait until February of 24 to approve this decision maker for a 2023 report? What are we hiding? And if the board wants full transparency, they should provide all the investigations, contracts with the districts, and billing to show which members of the board they have spoken to. A document evaluating the performance of a teacher or an administrator is confidential and not subject to disclosure. Texas Education Code, Section 21.355. Therefore, it was illegal for the board to vote to release Kite's documents publicly, and they were even told by the attorneys not to do so. Notably, the 4 board members specifically took this action against legal advice. I'm all for transparency of this district, trust me, but not at the cost of getting sued again. I'm sure hope that Kite does not bring another lawsuit against this district for releasing these documents, because he'll be laughing all the way to the bank at our cost. Are you trying to give him a huge payday? From the open records request I submitted, it's obvious that the board has withheld documents related to Kite's investigation. Why? Why not produce everything out front? What are we hiding? Where's the transparency? Are you secretly in cahoots with him? Parents and even employees are afraid of this board. They are scared of you, and they're hired attorneys. Kite is not the only member of this administration under investigation. Apparently, there's nearly a dozen Title IX complaints that have been filed. Furthermore, the board has taken away all district lawyers for the staff who are being investigated, even through the district's ultimate defendant, forcing them all to hire their own attorneys with their own money. For protection, the board while uses district's funds to hire their own lawyers.
Thank you. Well, I'm not in control of the time. But- Okay. Next, Mr. Hides? Mrs. Martin, he's not here? I guess. Okay. Miss Dee Dee Allen? And to your point, if Miss Matherly's here by 7, I mean, she can.
I do not see her here.
No, I'm saying, but if she gets here before we finish speaking, she can certainly be
I
the
will-
last
I will
speaker.
make sure
Don't
that-
have to go in a particular order.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Deanie Allen. Did you know that 95% of students can read on grade level? 95%. We have an incredible opportunity to unleash the full potential of all of our students. Earlier, the board made the decision to move away from the 3-cueing system of teaching reading. Now is the time to adopt a system that aligns with how our brains learn to read. Our teachers work very hard, but they lack the resources and the skills to teach all students the foundations of reading. We face 2 critical challenges. One, ensuring that all elementary students have the foundations of reading. And 2, providing targeted support for struggling readers in grades 4 to 12. But here's the exciting part. We have the power to transform students' lives. As a retired reading and dyslexia specialist with years of experience, I've found reading programs that fit our district. Reading Horizons Discovery for elementary students and Reading Horizons Elevate for older, struggling readers. These programs combine direct teacher instructions with engaging software, enabling students to experience reading success. We're already a good district, but we can become great. Our teachers need training and access to programs that meet our students' individual needs. Now, we seek your support. Please, please ensure that next year's budget includes the necessary funding for these reading programs.
Thank you. Ms. Matherly, I know.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Holly Matherly. My son is Titan Matherly. He is a 4th grader at Green Tree Elementary. Last week, I had the honor of going to the Texas Bluebonnet Award luncheon in San Antonio. The Texas Bluebonnet Awards are unique in children's literature awards because children across the state of Texas choose the winner. It was a pleasant surprise to see how well Humble ISD was represented at these awards. Eliza McCrary, a student from Foster Elementary, had the honor of introducing this year's award recipient, Charlie Parker. Eliza stood in front of a room full of hundreds of librarians, authors, and publishers with poise and enthusiasm and introduced Charlie Parker. It is so wonderful to see our students participating in such a big literary event. Also at the awards were Kimberly Zavala from Foster Elementary. She's the librarian there. She is also a member of the Texas Bluebonnet Award Committee. Brooke King, the librarian at Atascocita Middle School, was there as the chair of the Texas Association of School Librarians. School librarians are often underrated, but they truly are integral to fostering a love of learning and reading. The library is a magical place within the school filled with curiosity and inspiration. But the library is more than just a place. Humble ISD librarians create welcoming environments that encourage exploration and discovery. Our school librarians play a crucial role in cultivating a passion for reading and a lifelong love of learning among our students. They curate diverse collections that provide our students with opportunities to see themselves reflected in the books they read as they explore various topics and genres, sparking their curiosity and imagination. Our school librarians collaborate closely with our teachers to support the curriculum, enhance the learning experience, assist in selecting classroom resources that align with the lesson plans and the TEKS. In today's digital age, the ability to navigate and evaluate information effectively is more important than ever. Humble ISD librarians play a vital role in teaching students how to critically assess sources, conduct research, utilize technology tools for learning and communication. Humble ISD librarians wear many hats, but they contribute significantly to the academic success and personal growth of our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and your words are well taken. Librarians and libraries are just awesome.
Thank you.
Next is Marvis Kidd. And then would the other two speakers, Isabel Fleenor and Richard Stoicis, come forward? Okay, it appears Ms. Kidd is not with us. So, Ms. am I saying it right, Fleenor?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Good evening. I'm a high school student at Humble ISD, and I just wanted to say that the leaders of this district are more dysfunctional than the Kardashians. But on a serious note, can we please think of the children of this district instead of spending our time on frivolous things? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes our public comment. I didn't see the last person on the list. Okay, so we'll now move to action items from closed session. Next on the agenda is item 4A, personnel recommendations. Mr. Sitton, would you please provide a motion?
I move that the board approve the administration's personnel recommendations as presented in closed session with addendum.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Okay, 7-0, okay. Next, we have an abbreviated consent agenda, and I will go through. It's item 5 on our main agenda. Item A, approval of goods, professional services, and non-construction services exceeding $50,000 in the aggregate or $25,000 individually.
It's pulled.
Okay, that's pulled. B, bond fund transfers and amendments. That's consent. C, budgetary transfers and amendments. That's consent. And item D, change order, multipurpose rooms, group 3. That's consent. Okay. Mr. Sitton, would you please give that back in a motion that we can bring to the floor?
Yes, I move to approve consent agenda items 5B through 5D, with 5A being pulled.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay, that passes. Now I'll circle back to consent item A, and I will need a motion for us to discuss that.
So moved.
Okay, second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Grabowski, if you'd want to start, you asked to pull it.
I did. Just on the Carolina biological vendor, we often see increases, but this one just caught my attention a little bit more than normal. The most recent board-approved estimate was $25,000, with an estimated increase of $75,000 for a total revised total of $100,000. I'm just trying to figure out why it went up 4 times the estimate.
Mr. Beatty or Dr. Brown, or Ms. Perkins, if you could address, I don't have an answer for that.
I don't know the exact details for the increase. It could be a projection of what we're expecting to spend through 6/30, but I can get that information and bring it back to the board.
Okay. Is that satisfactory, Mr. Grabowski?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll move forward. We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion on this item, I'll ask to vote. All those in favor? Okay, 7-0. Okay. Now moving on to the main event for this meeting is our budget workshop. It's item 6A, and our CFO, Mr. Billy Beatty, will present the first go-round of what will be a few of our budget to give you information on that. The board received some more detailed information in there with the minutes. Now Mr. Beatty is just going to take us into some of these items, and please feel free to ask questions once he's completed that. Okay. Mr. Beatty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Scarfo. Good evening, board. I will be presenting the initial look at the 24-25 budget recommendation. It is still early. We don't have to adopt the budget until June, but this is the initial look at what the budget will feel like. Thanks. So overall, before we get into the new year budget, I just wanted to give an update on how we are doing with our current year budget, the 23-24, that we still have a couple more months to go with. As you remember, legislative session was our big focus when we built this year's budget. We had a couple special sessions. There was a lot of optimism throughout that budget cycle that there would be some changes to school finance, but that did not come to fruition. So, and we decided at that time that we were not going to budget on hope. We were going to budget with what was passed and actual law. So that ended up being a very, very good decision for us. Safety and security was and is always a top priority. And the legislature did pass House Bill 3. I'm going to talk about a couple House Bill 3s during this presentation, but the House Bill 3 related to school safety and security. And that did bring a little bit of extra funding, but it didn't provide the full amount of funding we needed to fulfill those requirements that were provided in House Bill 3. So that was an impact on the budget as well. And then ADA has been, and attendance has been a factor. And this is not unique to us, this is unique to all school districts, but attendance still hasn't recovered from pre-COVID rates. And as a reminder, the other House Bill 3, the major change to school finance, the attendance rates that were generally the average across all school districts that the formulas were built on haven't changed since then, but the attendance rate has significantly changed. So that's the attendance rates. We are receiving less funding than the formulas originally intended when they were built. And then inflation is still high, and that's a moving target. It could change and go down, but it's been consistently high. And if I bring you back to House Bill 3, when that was enacted, we're over double the inflation rate versus when House Bill 3 and the funding formulas that we receive funding based off of were enacted. So that's affecting us still. And happy note, good update here. You hear a lot about the ESSER cliff, and ESSER is coming to a close fall of this year, 2024. You hear the ESSER cliff. Lots of districts have utilized ESSER funding for positions that are recurring, and you have to find a home for those positions after the funding runs out. Happy to give you an update that we have no ESSER cliff. We utilize those funds for a lot of one-time COVID pandemic-related initiatives, so we didn't have a lot of recurring expenses there. We always try to use one-time money for one-time purposes, and so that served us well here. We have a home for the few. We have a transition plan for all of the ESSER positions that we have that we're still paying from ESSER. Some of those will transition off because we don't need them anymore. Others, we're finding alternative funding sources through grants and other revenue that we can find a home for those positions. So no ESSER cliff for us. Just to kind of give you an idea of how I believe, and it's
And Mr. Beatty, may I just say, and that's a testament to all of you guys and the superintendent and everyone, Dr. Fagan's staff, because I think people realize just some districts are in big trouble. And you guys just did a great job managing that one-time pot of money for needs we had. And I just want to state it publicly so it's on record. Really, you guys did an awesome job with that.
Thank you for that. And it was truly a team effort. There was so much planning across all divisions, departments. Everyone was involved in that. So thank you for that. So just to give you a feel for how I believe we're going to end this year, even though there's a lot of factors working against us in the budget, we planned well. I do believe that we will have a small surplus in the recurring operating budget. Overall, I do believe that we may have a small decrease to our overall fund balance, and that's not, again, we're going to probably have a surplus in recurring budget, but we have initiatives with one-time fund balance uses, whether it came from the budget process for the prior year or some capital projects like the outdoor playgrounds. We're utilizing some fund balance for safety and security. We have some fund balance. So I do believe that we will have a little bit of a decrease to fund balance, but we still remain in a very, very strong financial position. By policy, we're required to have 25% of fund balance, 25% of our expenditures in fund balance, and we'll likely end the year around 37%. So still a very strong position there. So now moving on to the next year, 2025, it's always good to be confident that you're ending the prior year in a good spot so that we can just focus on the new year issues that we're trying to address and focus on. So, and we don't have to focus on the things, that caught us by surprise potentially in a prior year. This is a little bit of a surprise, but the PASA report confirmed that we are meeting, we're about built out, and our enrollment, our exponential, you see that chart right there, our exponential growth is coming to an end, and our enrollment's going to be stabilized. So when we're looking at the new year budget, there's a couple, three primary factors that we're really looking closely at, and the enrollment. We've really been in a situation with the growth over the years is we're trying to just keep up and make sure that we are providing oftentimes we're thinking about where's the temporary buildings potentially going to be, and getting all the staffing aligned for the growth that we're going to see. That's not the case any longer for us, so we're having to pivot our focus there. And so enrollment is one of the primary factors that we are looking at this year. And you can see from that chart right there, we're going to be about where we are for the foreseeable future. And although there is a cone of uncertainty there, it's not hurricane season yet, but, that it could go either way. We're looking at that, but PASA has proven that they have been very, very good with these estimates in the past. So I kind of take them at that dotted line if that's where they project we're going to be. So we're taking that into consideration. And attendance, again, I keep saying attendance. We are about 3% lower than our pre-COVID attendance rates, which means that we're receiving about 3% less revenue than the formulas say, were built to provide us. And so we're really looking at attendance when we're preparing this year's budget. And then inflation, I mentioned inflation. We feel inflation personally. When we're going out to eat, just general purchases, we feel that as a school district as well. And although it is a moving target, it has remained significantly high for the past few years here. So, and it is currently more than double what it was when the funding formulas were enacted. So this is the first year that it may be the first year in I don't know how many years that we're going to have less revenue, and we're projecting about $5 million less in revenue. I've been here 15 years. That's never happened. COVID years, that didn't happen. So $5 million less in revenue is definitely. We're looking very closely at these factors so that we can address that revenue change. And so with less revenue, our priority and focus on this budget is to keep the family whole, keep all positions, and focus on compensation to, the inflation eats away at everyone, and, making sure that our family is made whole, compensation-wise and staffing-wise. So when facing a challenge, I kind of tell my team that challenges are really opportunities, depending on the perspective you approach those challenges with. So we're blessed with plenty of challenge, plenty of opportunity, so we had, I mentioned pivoting our attention from always trying to keep up with the growth and the staffing that comes along that. There's many years where we had hired 200 new teachers, and changing that is a total 180 for us. And so we took those factors that we were concerned about when we're building on the last slide, and really, after you look at them, they can all be opportunities for us. And you'll see later in the presentation the financial impact of what we're doing with these priorities here. But every one of our concerns, we have looked at them very closely to focus on what we can control related to those concerns and provide solutions. And that's how we are able to deliver a balanced budget this year and still provide for the needs we need to as a district. So if you're familiar with 7 Habits, this was the mantra whenever we were built and are currently working on the budget. Look at the circle of influence. The more we can focus and our energy and attention to what we can control, the more effective we will be. So operations budget, we looked, what can we control there? We have tried to look at every opportunity we can to be as competitive with bidding opportunities. So shout out to our purchasing department. They have been very busy with making sure that we're looking at everything that hasn't gone out to bid in a while and doing that so that we can make sure that we're getting the best pricing possible where we can. We're also looking, you may feel a temperature difference in here. It may be a little bit warmer and slightly, but we can control the set points on the temperature, and electricity alone is over an $8 million expense for us. So maybe a degree or two, and we'll see where it goes from there, Jason. But that impacts the budget, and then also, you know, how often we mow. It just really, this proactive approach that we took to all of these issues are hopefully going to be paying dividends for us. So we're looking at every single one of those things early on, setting ourselves up to have those things in place before we even get into the new year, not trying to figure those things out in the new year. We have already initiated attendance initiatives to try and help boost attendance, and even if we have a 1% increase, that's a significant monetary impact for us. A 1% overall ADA increase is about $4 million more revenue that we will receive. So focusing on that. And then recently, you all approved the new open enrollment policy, and as we see that our natural enrollment is stabilizing, we do have some seats available at campuses with capacity, and if we are able to accept more students into the district, then we're able to increase the operational efficiencies of those campuses and not have buildings be underutilized. So overall, the budget objectives, as we're going through the budget, all of our recommendations are always aligned to our district goals, and that's always a focus. This year is very limited on what we're recommending, but just want to make sure that we always highlight that everything is, our district goals are always at the forefront of our decisions. Also, a reminder is that we utilize a zero-based budget process. No one gets a budget increase unless it's submitted as a submitted. It is reviewed and it's going through thorough approvals before it's recommended to you all. And I just want to highlight again that we have a process where we allow the campuses to keep 15% of their unused funds and departments, and that's called the carry forward. And it allows departments and campuses to build up their own savings account. It's kind of their own fund balance. And I do want to just highlight that because that'll come in. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on a later slide as well. And again, it's very limited recommendations because it's a tight budget cycle, but this is our process. Okay, so as far as recommendations go, I mentioned that we wanted to keep our family whole even in the face of $5 million less revenue. So that's a little bit easier said than done, but we want to remain as competitive as we can so that we can still attract and retain the best staff for our students. So we are recommending a 1% average salary increase for all staff. We believe that all districts are struggling with this budget cycle. We believe that will allow us to remain competitive. We're also recommending a 1% one-time stipend for all staff. I mentioned that we still have a very strong fund balance, so we recommend utilizing some of that fund balance as a one-time so that total new comp for staff would be about 2% increase from the prior year. 1% of that being added into recurring salary, 1%, the one-time would be looked at next, a future budget cycle. We also recommend continuing the $1,000 stipend. That's a 500 December and May non-House Bill 3 staff stipend that we started after House Bill 3 was implemented, and we recommend continuing that. That would, again, be a use of fund balance to fund that stipend. And as I talked about a little bit earlier, inflation kind of just slowly eats away at everything, and we really would like to, if possible, and we had some great discussions about health insurance premiums at Finance Committee, try to not recommend any premium increases for health insurance so that the salary increases go 100% to the paycheck and aren't eaten away at health insurance increases. And finally, we don't have enrollment growth, but we are seeing growth in special education. And we need to add positions to meet that need to provide those services. So we are recommending about $1 million in new positions for special education staff.
Mr. B, about how many, on that last point, about how many teachers would that, or should I say teachers, but specialists for special education, how many would that equate to?
So it's still being worked out at this time. Mr. Phipps, we have a plan that we're building. I do plan on bringing more details about the specifics of those positions at the May workshop. So it's still being worked out, but we believe we can meet the needs with $1 million worth of positions. But it will be a combination of positions. So the 1% salary increase I mentioned, on average, you can see what that means for the teacher pay schedule here. This is the recurring raise portion of that. Again, we're recommending that 1% on top of this as well as a one-time stipend. Our goal is always to maintain at least 99% market position. This allows us to stay above average, and in this model, we're projecting that the market will move 2%. I don't know that will really happen, but we're confident that this will allow us to remain very competitive. Also want to note that in recent years, we have really made significant improvements to starting salary for teachers. We have risen to the leader among our neighbors, second place, not first place. But I just want to highlight that what that impact has of the 1st to 5-year teachers, where this initiative to increase our salaries really began. We're 82% of the total years of service for the 1 to 5-year teachers are with Humble ISD. If you look at every other bracket of years of service, it's about 60% of that service with Humble ISD. So I think that this is an indicator that us being competitive with our compensation is having a significant impact to retaining teachers. Just to dive a little bit deeper into, and again, this is very early. Some districts have already made decisions on compensation. I know New Caney has come out, and so where we new districts have already made decisions, we applied those updates here to compare ourselves, and then everywhere else where we don't know, we applied 2%, and currently we're projecting. With the 1% salary increase, that we will land about third amongst our neighbors at this time. So still a leader in compensation. And this is before you take into health insurance. Oftentimes, for example, some of the other districts that may be ahead of us, the impact of health insurance on that take-home pay is pretty significant. So this allows us to remain very competitive. This is usually the part of the presentation where I talk about all of the innovation, the growth positions that we have, all the ways that we're trying to personalize education for students. And we don't have recommendations this year for that, but it doesn't mean that we're not doing that. I mentioned the 15% carry forward. We are still able to deliver on providing this level of excellence with innovation and personalized education, safety and security by utilizing that carry forward, the savings accounts that the departments and campuses have built up over the years. So just because we're not recommending it as new money new in this next year's budget, those things are still occurring and means to accomplish those goals. So as you know, this is a preliminary look at the actual numbers here. Always trying to look at always delivering a balanced budget in years. Always trying to maximize every dollar where we can. But we're starting, this year is unique in that we're starting in a $5 million hole in a way because of that, the fast growth allotment that we received because we were one of the highest growing, the 6th fastest growing district in the state of Texas. That's going to start decreasing as we lose our fast growth status. So that's what that $5 million in decreased revenue is. So we need to fill that gap. We have already begun and plan to continue to work on attendance and ADA improvement. The attendance initiatives that we've already begun in February are already starting to show slight improvement there. So I mentioned not budgeting on hope. I don't recommend budgeting on hope, but we have already we are proactive about these priorities that we are looking at and already enacted some of the changes and are able to demonstrate they are making an impact. So feel confident in budgeting that as well. We're projecting, due to the open enrollment policy change, that we will receive an additional $4 million in revenue due to that decision with the new students joining Humble ISD. And then the budget efficiency, that deep dive in RFPs and looking at set points, we believe that that's about $2 million worth of savings that we found through that process. So all in all, the 1% salary increase is about $3.7 million, and that includes some, later on we'll bring stipend review and position review recommendations to you as well. That's included in that number. And then the $1 million worth of special education positions and all together, we will be and plan to recommend a balanced budget to you all at budget adoption.
So Billy, one question, open enrollment, right? So that's projected to $4 million. And I guess this might be a question for Dr. Fagan. How many, do we have people already waiting in the wings for open enrollment? You know, Terry, I don't know if maybe even you could answer that. It's just trying to figure out, that's a nice number. Just wondering where already. That's, yeah.
Well, Mr. Holmes, we're in the process now of finalizing those guidelines and working with the Public Information Department on getting information out so that
Okay.
not within, we have around the 1st of May as a roundabout goal to be able to get that information out and open the link for people to apply.
That's, okay.
We have received lots of informal phone calls to our campus registrars inquiring about the process, and so we'll be in about the next week and a half issuing additional guidance and procedures for people to apply.
Thank you.
Mr. Beatty?
Yep.
So I, for one, would like to say, I know a lot of school districts are going to have serious budget deficits. So, you know, I'm encouraged by looking at our numbers and the fact that we are looking to have a balanced budget To me, that's very important for us to do. I just wanted to also share that I know the ADA based on enrollment is something that we all are wishing for, and also additional SPED funds. And this won't help for the 24-25 year, but I just spent a few days in Austin with the Legislative Advisory Committee, and for the next legislative session, those are two areas that were in the top priorities to really fight for that ADA based on enrollment, and also additional SPED funds, because everybody is essentially feeling the same thing, whether they're going to have a deficit or not. So I just wanted to say, you know, we're all kind of trying to do our part in that, but just based on what you've already presented, I'm just really thankful that it doesn't seem like we are going to, you know, like you said, the cliff. We're going to avoid that cliff. So thank you for your work.
Well, it's good to hear about the priorities there, because just to, you know, add to that, special education is growing. The numbers are growing. The identification is growing, and if you looked at overall funding, all special education related funding, it's a little over half of what the actual expenses are. So it's definitely a need. And as far as enrollment, that would be a beneficial way of looking at school funding, because we have to always budget and staff as if all kids are going to be there. We can't ever turn off 7% of the lights or air, or send 7% of the teachers away if 7% of the kids are out. So it would be more reflective of our actual operations if we were funded on actual enrollment.
Let me just ask Mr. Grabowski and Mr. Kirchhoffer, you can hear me, if you have any questions. I don't want to ignore you. I can't see you on the screen right now because the presentation's up. So they can hear me? Okay. So, yeah, if you do, just let us know that you have a question. Ms. Parker, I know you had a question.
So when we were in the Finance Committee, the open enrollment, the number we were looking at is 448 students and about a $500 a semester application fee, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Tuition. Yep.
So I just wanted to make the public aware of that. And 448 students is less than 1% of our student population.
Okay, well,
Okay.
are you at, okay,
Just
go ahead.
Wrapping up, today we have our initial budget workshop. May we'll be back for another budget workshop, and then if we could have a potential budget adoption in June, just to kind of give an overview of that timeline, and then this is like the trailer for the movie, next month's movie, but we're going to have initial property values and get to take a look at that impact on tax rate, give you more final recurring expense detail, the one-time expense detail. We're also trying to save money right now for employees. We have all of our voluntary benefits out to bid, so we're optimistic and confident that we'll be able to generate a little bit of savings and create more take-home pay through those voluntary benefit offerings, and then also bring position and stipend review in May as well. And that is it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the initial view. It's going to be tough, but I think we're in good shape going forward. Okay, with that, I will now go to our next item on the agenda, and that is meeting adjournment. And its time is now 7:36 p.m. Meeting's adjourned.